Now, live with Greg Olsen, Director of the New York State Office for the Aging.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited for this program today. My name is Greg Olsen. I'm the Director of the New York State Office for Aging. I have with me, and I'll introduce him a little bit further in a second, Ted Fischer, who's the CEO of Ageless Innovation, makers of Joy for All companion pets. You know, NYSOFA started this partnership with Ageless Innovation around the summer of 2018, but this partnership started a little bit differently than your normal partnership. And I'm so excited to have with me today the person responsible for the strong partnership that we've had now going on over 5 years with Ageless Innovation. And that's my daughter, Anya. So Anya, let me ask you a question. How did we wind up getting into this partnership with Ageless Innovation? Tell me about the pet, because you are responsible for us being here today.
So I had a lot of stuffed animals growing up, and I originally was looking for another stuffed animal, but I came across the animatronic pet, and I instantly fell in love with it when I got it. I loved it a lot, and I was so excited to show you when I got home, and the first thing you told me was that would be a great project for lonely older people. I had no idea how much of an impact it would have on people, and I'm still shocked about how much of a great project it's become today.
Well, I want to thank you, because I know you don't believe this, and you tell me this all the time. You have changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, not only in New York, but across the country, along with our partnership, obviously, with Ted. So I want to thank you, and thanks for jumping on. We're going to be talking a lot about intergenerational stuff today. So I want to thank Anya. And again, I want to introduce my good friend, Ted Fischer. You know, as we age, you don't just hit a certain point and stop doing the things that you love. You can also pick up new things as you get older. And I think the perfect demonstration of that are things like pickleball, which is now really a worldwide phenomenon. But you don't stop listening to music. You don't stop being interested in the news and sports and arts and culture. Your love of animals, or whatever it might be. Nor should you ever stop your desire to play. And that's why I'm so excited to have my friend Ted Fischer with me. He is the CEO of Ageless Innovation, which, as I mentioned, is the maker of the Joy for All brand of animatronic pets. And our partnership Ted has just been outstanding. Ted is literally a world leader in what we're talking about today, and that's that you're never too young or too old to play, and what the benefits of that is. So Ted, thanks so much for joining me today.
Greg, it is such a pleasure to be here. And as you've already said, first of all, I owe Anya a big thank you. So Anya, thank you for finding our pets and bringing it into your home so that your dad saw it and thought what a great project this would be for older adults, because I don't think either of us could have imagined the impact that we've been able to have together and for so many older adults in the state of New York and beyond. So it's such a pleasure. And I just, would like to start with a thank you for this great partnership. You mentioned it a few times, but we've built this business on partnership, believing that the only way that we're going to have significant impact is to partner with like-minded folks who are trying to solve the same issues. And we come at it from different ways, and bringing that power together has been, I think, what's really sparked this thing. So thank you for your leadership and your innovation. And it's been a pleasure every day.
Now, my pleasure. Now, I know you, Ted, and people don't know the diversity of your background, and you probably didn't think in your 20s and 30s that this is where you would be at. So talk to us a little bit about how you got into this market and what really is Ageless Innovation and the Joy for All brand.
Sure. Well, I don't think I could have connected the dots. So eight years ago or so, I was brought into Hasbro, the world's largest toy company, to lead this new innovation group. And really our mandate was to leverage Hasbro's assets in new markets and new channels. So they were already pretty well established in the toy market for kids. And we looked around and thought, what are the things that Hasbro are so great at? So the ability to engage and gamify and fun and joy and play and make meaningful connections. And we, as we explored sort of this blank canvas, we looked at health and wellness as an area where we felt like the things that Hasbro was really great at partnered with some great data, information, and programs, which typically in the health and wellness space aren't that great at engaging people. We thought there was a way to bring those things together. And so as we sort of explored that, there were some insights that already existed at Hasbro about some products that we're having. We were looking for things that might have had unintended end users or unintended end uses. And we found that this animatronic toy that 20-something years ago was actually developed for 4 to 8-year-old girls, that was the category, was actually being bought by mom. About 20% of the reviews were not being bought for the daughter, but being bought for an aging loved one. And the reviews would make you cry. Like you read them, you're like, I read a lot of Nerf reviews. None of them made me want to cry. But when I read about the impact that these animatronic toys were having with older adults, it was sort of eye-opening. And the team at Hasbro, the idea had been kicking around for a while, but until our group formed, there really wasn't an avenue in a company like Hasbro to bring something organically to market. And so we did a ton of research. We visited older adults all around the country. We went into every living room that would let us in to really validate that there was an opportunity here. And we found a couple things. One, older adults unequivocally want more fun and joy and play in their life. As you said earlier, there's no age that we decide, oh, let's just stop playing. Although society and culture sometimes says we're too old for that, and our since day one, our mission has been to totally dispel that. And then the other great insight was that there was this incredible need for interactive companionship. Well before the pandemic, and you know this as well as I do, because we did our pilot together way before the pandemic, and that was this epidemic of loneliness and isolation that really is impacting and affecting especially the older adults in our country. And so with those two things in hand, we tried a whole bunch of different things, and it turned out that as I think you're seeing these pets, really all the features that you see were designed by older adults. I mean, we were not older adult experts at Hasbro, so we went out to the experts to find out what they wanted. So that's the birth of the brand. We launched the first product in 2015. We launched our second product, so the cat was first, the dog came second a year later. And then in 2018, as we were growing, we realized it was getting more difficult to focus 100% on older adults. And my team and I were so passionately committed to it that, between us and a really receptive management team at Hasbro, we decided to spin the Joy for All brand out. And myself and a few co-founders started Ageless Innovation, and we acquired the Joy for All brand. And so we are fortunate enough to be sitting here 100% focused on older adults and their families and creating fun, meaningful, and joyful products for older adults.
And I appreciate that background. We're having a little technical problem with Facebook. So for individuals that are listening, you can go to YouTube, and hopefully our recording can get fixed. So I just wanted to put that out there. One of the things as you were talking, Ted, I mean, you can hear the passion, not only from yourself, but I've been fortunate enough to meet your entire team, and they really all share that same passion that you have. We saw some pictures while you were talking of the cats and dogs. Alex, if you could blow Ted back up, what you'll see over his shoulder are the walker squawkers. One's a little red bird and one's a blue bird. And that's designed to really prevent falls and injuries related to fall by going on somebody's walker that, again, will notice if somebody gets up and they have it on their walker and they forget to take their walker, it will remind them, hey, don't do that. So I just think, your level of innovation is really incredible. And your focus on older adults, I think, is spectacular. You're talking about the Hasbro market, and everybody's marketing to kids and games, et cetera. And you noticed early on that was not the case with older people. But during all of you had mentioned these were developed and designed based on a lot of research you guys did with older adults themselves. So what are some of the things, issues or things that you saw in that demographic and what they're facing that led you to this?
Yeah, so as mentioned, and it's no surprise to you or I, but loneliness and isolation is just it's a it's an epidemic in itself, pre-COVID and post-COVID. And so that was one area where we felt like interactive companionship, meaningful connections, fun, joy, play, they were opportunities, to really have an impact in a very unique and different way. And our purpose as a company is to sort of reimagine how we positively live and age together by unleashing the power of play, which I know is the theme of our day. But we talk about that power of play not as sort of a nice to have, but as a basic human need. And the passion that you see in me and you see in my team is because we've been so fortunate to see every day the impact that it's had. And so, we now, there's a lot of validation of the impact. And honestly, I'd love to tell you we were smart enough day one to think that we could have this type of impact, but not only for loneliness and isolation and depression and those type of things, but it's had meaningful impact with people with cognitive decline, whether it's Alzheimer's disease or related dementias. We have tons of published research now that validates the impact that it's had for older adults. And if you'll indulge me for 1 second, you brought up the walker squawker. I think, really true to sort of who we are and our purpose is that I think I'm going to hold this up, but the best part of the walker squawker is that it was actually invented by 95-year-old Rita Malone. This was her invention. And she didn't need a walker for 90 years of her life, and then she did, and she kept forgetting it. So she thought, wouldn't it be great if I had this little bird? So she pitched this at 93 years old on this great idea. And what better for a company focused 100% on older adults to be able to bring a 93-year-old, entrepreneur's vision to life. And so we've been fortunate enough to launch the Walker Squawker.
Yeah, right. Aren't the best products designed by the end user? That's why, again, I love your philosophy on that. So, we saw a couple of pictures of, the cats and dogs. On the user end, it is really straightforward in terms of how it works. How'd you come up with the technology?
Yeah, so you said it a minute ago, but our philosophy here in terms of product development, product design is very, very simple. Ask the experts. And so we literally sat in assisted living, memory cares, living rooms, you name it, showing people different and they would give us great feedback. And then we would go back and tinker and bring it back and say, did we get it right? And, that process sort of repeated itself. But the things that we heard that were so unique, and I think the cat's a great example. People who are cat lovers, there's a tactile sensation when cats purr. They actually vibrate. There's a tactile feeling, and they wanted that. And so we created a technology called VibraPurr. So when our cat purrs, it actually vibrates. So if it's sitting on your lap and it's purring, you're feeling it, not just hearing it. And that was hugely important to people. Simple things like paw pads, which most stuffed animals don't have, or most, things that, other people might be using didn't have. Tapered whiskers as opposed to straight whiskers, which doesn't sound like much. But if you look at most toys, all the whiskers are the same length. If you look at a real cat, they're all different lengths. And so our cats are different lengths. So it was things like that, the heartbeat in the pup, which, we also, thought was a really important feature to sort of give that same tactile innovation, and the fact that it responds to sound and to touch. And it really was all about a give and take relationship with the end user, similar to with the Walker Squawker as well. It'll respond to sound, it'll respond to touch, and it'll respond to changes in light. And so it really is responding to the environment it's in, but most importantly, the end user that's enjoying it.
Absolutely. Some people may see these and think that they're toys, and they really are not toys. They're very beneficial. We did in the beginning, and I know this has been validated since, so maybe you can talk about this, but we wanted to make sure when we did this pilot in 2018, we had 14 counties that participated. We had a lot of people on our caseload who we knew were alone, that were isolated. And, if people are like me, and a lot of people are, they're animal lovers. We saw over a year period, a 75% reduction in loneliness, isolation, and depression. And one of our counties actually implemented a pain scale. And after 1 year, 75% of the individuals that received one of the pets went from a 9 or a 10 on the pain scale down to a 1 or a 2 after a year. I know Alabama, and I think this was one of the data points that I always remember because it's really important, is they measured the usage over time. So it wasn't one of those where I received the pet, I pet it for a day or two and put it on a shelf and never see it again. They saw increased engagement over the course of a year. You have now since had, I don't know, 10, 12 additional studies that validate the efficacy of these pets. Can you just talk about a couple of them?
Yeah. So we have about a dozen published research projects, and some of them are focused on dementia and Alzheimer's specifically, and some are focused on loneliness and isolation. I'll talk about the largest one, which was actually funded by AARP and United Healthcare. And that's statistically relevant as both a qualitative and a quantitative study. But what they saw is increased resilience, increased sense of purpose, decreased depression, a sense of optimism. So all of these things that they're measuring on every scale, was better than we could have expected. And I think, Gene Brown from Alabama, who was the one who published that other study, that was, again, further validation, because they measured at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. And it went from like 60 or something percent after 3 months to like 78% after 12 months. So people were re-engaging with it. They put it down and realized maybe they missed it or they needed something. And so the usage went up over time. And so when you marry both of those together, the impact that they've had, and the validation in terms of really statistically relevant, sort of improvements in those things. And I love the pain scale. It's sort of like the Holy Grail. You'd love to take everyone's pain away. You'd love to see joy and fun and play in people's lives. And together, I think, we've done it a bunch of times, right, with this project. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I think one of the other impacts that's kind of ripple, throw a rock in a pond and see the ripple, is not only all the data that you have on the recipient impact, but if you're in like a veterans hospital or assisted living or a nursing home or what have you, it's a magnet to have other residents come in and say, well, what is that? And then you have that type of interaction as well. Not only the individual benefits, but then there's group benefits to it as well. So I congratulate you guys. You recently sent a study on the impact on behaviorally challenged and autistic children in the UK. So, I mean, the evidence is all there, but you don't always need the evidence. You have something good when you see it. Yeah. And you certainly do.
Thanks. Yeah, it's, again, I think it's interesting because none of the study, we didn't pay for any of the studies. So they were all independently done. And it really started with the anecdotal evidence, as you said, when you see it, right? If people are instantly, I've watched a lot of naysayers, hand over a pet to a loved one and convert in seconds based on the reaction and what's happened. And it's normal. Like, I get it. I can't say that day one when this idea was floating around that I, could have imagined that it would have been this impactful or even, this accepted. So I think, the proof is sort of in the pleasure, right? The fun, the joy that you witness. And that's been the core of what we've tried to produce with all of our products.
Yeah, and I hadn't planned on saying this, Ted. You're absolutely right. I was presenting at the SUNY Nanoscience Center in front of really smart nanoscience researchers. I don't even really know what that is, but that's who these were. And I was talking about the animatronic pet project, and a professor in the back raised his hand and said, I'd heard about these. And I didn't give them much thought. I thought it was, he said along the lines, I thought it was one of the silliest things that I had ever heard until we started being a caregiver for my wife's mother. She got one of the dogs, and he immediately said the same thing. It has completely changed my perception of what I thought and what the impact of these things can be. So Ted, hang on a second. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Roger Noyes, Director of Communications for the New York State Office for the Aging. Please visit our YouTube channel today. Like and subscribe, and you'll find all of this great content to support older adults, their caregivers, and people who love them. Please subscribe today.
Well, thanks, Roger, for that message, and really sign on to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of great content on there. Where are we now in New York State? Well, we started in late 2018. As of the end of May, we've put over 24,000 pets out in partnership with Ted and his company, our area agencies on aging. But now we have pets in federally qualified health centers. use with individuals with mental health issues, assisted living, veterans, and on and on and on. So let's take a look live what the impact of these are.
What do you think?
How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail? You know that song? Let's go sing it together.
Oh, she's beautiful. She's just beautiful. I think she likes me.
Let me see. I want to see her open and close. Pet her, Mom. Oh, she's purring. She's purring.
Oh, you're so pretty. Yes, you are. You're so beautiful. She's beautiful.
Maybe I should get one of these and they won't scratch.
Oh, I know.
She won't scratch my furniture.
You're so pretty. Oh, what's the matter? Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Oh, you are hungry. Oh, you're so pretty.
Whoever thought of this?
Oh, I never heard of such a thing.
It's adorable.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. It's very nice.
It is.
And her collar has your name and her name.
My name?
Your name is on her collar.
What's her name?
Her name is Kitty Cat.
Yeah, of course it is. Hello.
If you want to change it, you can change it.
Never. Never. Kitty cat. See that? We got a real kitty cat. How do you make it?
I don't know. It's amazing. It runs on batteries, so we'll have to turn her off every now and then. But, yeah.
I didn't put you on.
I did.
Oh, where is it?
It's underneath. I'll show it to you.
Here.
It's underneath here. You have to open her up, and there's a little switch right here. And if you put her on mute, she'll still purr and move, but she won't meow.
Wow.
Would you like her?
How
Yeah.
much was she?
She was priceless. She's worth all the money in the world.
So cute.
Yeah, it still gives me chills to see videos like that. We've been getting pictures and videos, as you have, Ted, around the country. We have in New York for 5 years. It still gives me chills. 24,000 pets. We're still going strong. And I think the name of your company was espoused in each of the three, Joy for All. I mean, it says it no better than that.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears, Ted, because we're just beginning. Well, not we, you guys are, in really doing some unique and different things. So you have a very, very exciting new partnership with Hasbro. You had mentioned earlier you came from Hasbro. Tell us about the partnership and how it came together.
Yeah. So I'll start with a little backstory because, you know, sometimes things work out the way that they're supposed to. So when we were at Hasbro, you know, we spent about 4 years there before we spun the business out. And I sat in this row of offices with a bunch of other, and one of the guys was the guy who ran the games business at Hasbro. His name was Johnny B. And about every day I would walk into his office and I would say, Johnny B, this market is unbelievable. We have got to reimagine games for older adults. And Johnny B would look at me and goes, Ted, that is such a great idea. I love this idea. No chance. You know, so and every day it was the same conversation. And the reality was he did love the idea, but just internally it was so hard to turn that engine because he was focused. I mean, at the time he had this game Pie Face, which was selling like 20 million copies a day. Like it was, you know, and he had all he could do. Fast forward to about a year ago, Hasbro, you know, called us up and said, and we have a great relationship with them, and we consider them wonderful partners in a lot of ways, and you know, they love what we do and gave us the opportunity to actually do what we do. So that's exciting. And they said, listen, we are seeing a big uptick in the use of our board games with older adults. We're getting feedback that they're great, but they're not as inclusive or as easy to play as, you know, maybe they could be. And they said, listen, and this is, the team came to me and said, we think there's a great opportunity to reimagine these games for older adults. And we don't know that market. You do. We think you should do it. And I said, I couldn't agree more. And so we got to sort of fulfill this prophecy that 5 years ago, all of us felt was a great idea. And now we had a real avenue to do it. And so about 8 months ago, we signed an agreement with Hasbro. We're their first ever licensee exclusively for the older adult market. Never been done before. And basically they said, this market, develop and design the games, sell them, and provide them to the audience that you think is right. So we chose 3. The catalog is extensive. We have access to the entire catalog. And so our first 3 that we're coming out with in August, you see Trivial Pursuit Generations on your screen. So we took Trivial Pursuit and we made it into a Generations game where you can play it as a greatest, a boomer, a millennial, a Gen X, or a Gen Z. And the questions are specific to those generations. And if you want, I can do a little sneak peek in a minute to tell you about that. And then we reimagined Scrabble to be a 3-in-1 game. So you get 3 for the price of 1. It's called Scrabble Bingo. And so you can play traditional Scrabble. We made some changes to the sort of the tactile part of the game. We also invented 2 new games based on feedback. And then the third is Game of Life Generations. And that's also, a great game where you play as either, the boomer, greatest generation, millennial, Gen Z, or Gen X. And the things that happen to you along the way are kind of specific to your generation. So, Gen Zers have side hustle cards, which are, very sort of synonymous with that generation. And then the boomer generation have coupon cards because all the boomers had coupons, right? So, and then as you play the game, different things happen. So we've been so fortunate to now be able to go out. And again, as we're designing these games, as you can see right here, we went to the experts. And we had, literally paper things that we had cut up and we're playing, with mock-ups to get things. And, can you hold this piece? Can you see this piece? What makes sense? Is this fast enough, slow enough? And, thanks to the great older adults that love to play, I think we have created 3 fantastic games to launch this partnership. So,
I think it's fantastic. And I love, as we're showing the pictures, you see the generations. I love that, not only are these designed for older adults, but it's really an intergenerational focus. And I love the word that you use, reimagine, because there is a market here. I got a sneak peek a little while ago when I came to visit your team, and we played some of these games, and it was uber competitive. And so I'm really excited about that. But there's some other features that are really important, especially people that might have arthritis, manipulation, visual impairments. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I'll show a couple props here, but this is a typical Scrabble piece. It's it's typically wood, black and brown, not great contrast. We heard that they're tough to see and they're tough to pick up off the table, put down, those type of things. So we rethought of the piece, much bigger, and we changed the contrast from sort of a white-black, but we also made, I don't know if you can see that, but they're 3-dimensional. So there's sort of a flange on the end so you can pick them up really easily, place them down. We reimagined the tile holders. So from a tactile standpoint, you're playing with pieces that just make it easier. So if you want to play regular Scrabble, which you can, you'll do that. But we also heard that sometimes Scrabble, people don't have enough time to play a full game, but they love the idea of making words and doing those things. So we created 2 additional games. This one's called Scrabble Bingo. I'll hold that up over here. And one of the things that we heard about bingo is people love it, but typically has to be facilitated by someone else. This sort of puts it in their hands. And so, you pass around the bag of tiles, you pull one out. If it matches, you put it on. First one to spell the word, that's a bingo. So quick and easy way to play bingo. And then my favorite game, which I think this is the competitive game you were talking about, is called Scrabble Pass. And so if you look you see double letter, triple word, the typical squares that you might see on a Scrabble board. but you get a set of tiles, 7 on your tile holder. And then when the game starts, you pass them to the person next to you. And then the game starts, you either put down a 2, 3, 4, or 5 letter word of your choice, and you choose the line. And so where you put it's kind of strategic too, because if this is a triple letter, if you have a Q, spell queen, you may want to put it on this line here because you get the most points. And then the first person puts their word down, we have a 30-second timer. It then flips over, and then everybody has to put their word down before the sand hits the hourglass there. So you play 5 rounds, 10, 12, 14 minutes. Game's over. You use your cognitive abilities. You can spell simple words like TO if that's all you've got, and everybody can play. But to the competitive side, I tell this story all the time. But we were developing this game. I was playing at I think it was at St. Elizabeth's or one of our partners, and I'm sitting next to a woman who's 82 years old. And so the first pass, I get my tiles, and she's already spelled a 5-letter word for me. So I immediately put it down and turned the timer over. And she looks at me with disdain, like, how could you do that? Like, she figured out that wasn't a very good strategy. So the next time I get my tiles, they're upside down, backwards, sideways. There's no word spelled. She wanted to win. And that's what happens. People get really competitive in this game. We just had a game night out in Salt Lake City, Utah at the U.S. Aging Conference. And we had a bunch of AAA leaders from around the country playing. There were some New York folks there as well, and we had more fun playing these 3 games, so it was really great. So that's the Scrabble Pass, and then on the Trivial Pursuit side, again on the tactile part, this is the typical Trivial Pursuit card. I don't know if you can see it because I can't read that, but that's what our cards look like, right? So we increased the font size, increased the size of the card, changed the contrast, so it was easier to see. But what's really unique is that on each card is the greatest, the boomer, the Gen X, the millennial, and the Gen Z question. So you can play intergenerationally. Trivial Pursuit's a wonderful game, but sometimes hard to play intergenerationally because you get subject matter experts in a band, right? And then if you're below or outside that band, above or beyond, or in some whatever the topic is, it's not that much fun because somebody just wins. This one's great. I'm going to ask you the Gen X question because you're probably a Gen Xer. This is comedians. That's the topic here. What comedian uses a sledge-o-matic device to smash things, including watermelons?
Was that Carrot Top?
No, Gallagher.
Sir.
The device is essentially a large wooden mallet. But if you were Greatest Generation, the question would be, by what name was cigar-loving comedian Julius Henry Marx better known as? Groucho.
Yeah,
So we have questions and they're different topics and different things. And then the other thing we did in the game is about 30% of the cards they have a prompt on them, and it's blank. And it says, what was blank's first car, right? So what was Grandpa's first car? And then the answer's on the back. And then all of a sudden, sort of the family memories and some things you want to, so you can see right there in the picture, it becomes part of the game and part of the trivia, and everyone's learning about everyone, and it really is a great fun family thing. And then Game of Life, the last thing I'll say is, the uniqueness there. We changed like the boomers get a VW bus, that's their car. So I mean, literally down to the type of car that you get that you play with is important. I talked about the cards, but as an example, if you're, say, the Greatest Generation and you lose your job, which sometimes happens in life, you turn a card over and it says, oh, you got back on this, you beat the streets, you got a new job, collect $200,000 from the bank. If you're a millennial, it says you took a year off to find yourself, you moved into your parents' basement, you paid the bank $5,000 in rent. So, and we pick on every generation very equally, and honestly, I've played this now a number of times with tons of generations. And it is like so. I give the team so much credit because the thoughtfulness of the unique generational aspect of it actually makes it so much fun. And everybody sort of is playing in their thing. When I remember playing recently, and the Gen Zer, before they reached a certain point in their career, they didn't get their payday from the bank. It was from all the other players. We had to give them all $10,000. I'm going, this is just like at home with my Gen Zers, right? So.
Really clever and great. As somebody that grew up not only at Hasbro games, but just games in general, I think it's long past time that somebody saw the value of this. I know, you know, we're at a time now, especially with younger kids, and it's just the culture we're in, where it's tablets, phones, social media, and less interaction. I'm very fortunate that when my kids come over, we're still playing cards and dominoes and Yahtzee and Life and Trivial Pursuit, etc. So we're going to move into something really, really exciting in the next segment. But we also know that food is medicine and access to good nutrition is critically important. So let's take a break and take a look at this for a second.
What's Cooking with NYSOFA? A new cooking show from the New York State Office for the Aging and SNAP-Ed New York. Each month, registered dietitian Wendy Beckman demonstrates exciting recipes that are quick and easy to prepare and won't break the bank. New episodes premiere on the last Friday of every month at 12:30 p.m. Save time, save money, and eat healthy. What's Cooking with NYSOFA? Streaming on NYSOFA's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And Wendy's done a fantastic job. We've reached almost 700,000 people just with What's Cooking with NYSOFA. It's fantastic. So welcome back. Now this is gonna, not that it hasn't been great so far, but we ramp it up in each segment here. You have created this fantastic idea called Reach Out and Play in partnership with AARP. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so again, the backstory. So Reach Out and Play was something we envisioned actually years ago. And we put about a year and a half of work into it. And the idea was to really positively impact social isolation and loneliness by bringing generations together and connecting over fun and joy and play. And so the idea was, you know, if we could just get people together. So we had done the pilot in Rhode Island, which is where we were headquartered, where we brought, you know, middle school kids and high school kids to senior centers and played games and did, you know, all different things, trying to figure out what the best model was. And after a year and a half of planning, we were scheduled to launch in March of 2020. And for those of you who don't remember what happened in March of 2020, something called Reach Out and Play didn't sound like a very good idea back then, as we got deeper into COVID. And so we put it on the shelf. And then as the games opportunity came out, we've been like chomping at the bit, thinking about how, you know, can we launch this in a positive way to really blow it out and have impact, you know, beyond what we thought was possible, even, you know, prior to 2020. How can we get together and bring people together to, you know, really impact social isolation and loneliness through, you know, real human contact, real meaningful connections, really using fun and joy and play as the tool. And so the Reach Out and Play in its new format is a campaign that we've launched. The major dates are going to be between September 5th and September 17th, with Grandparents' Day as the 10th, right in the middle, anytime over those 2 weeks. And the idea is that we would love for every organization to host, you know, a game night or more than a game night, bring people together. We've created a toolkit that we will push out to anybody who's interested, it's literally everything you want to know and think about in terms of planning one of these events. And if you're just someone who would like to be part of one of the events, an individual, we envision this at, you know, day centers, senior centers, at you know, assisted living, but we also envision it at congregate meal sites, but around the kitchen table is just as great. And so we think that's as powerful as anything. If we can provide the sort of opportunity for the generations to get together, peer-to-peer or intergenerational, around a table in a kitchen, then we've brought people together to have a meaningful connection. And we think that, you know, this is just a really, really exciting. And AARP, who are focused on, you know, what can we do for our membership, you know, in terms of, they have a great event called Movies for Grownups that's run out of a group there that's called Fun and Fulfillment. And when I met the person who runs it, Heather, she's fantastic, but her title is VP of Fun and Fulfillment. I'm like, now I have title envy, right? I have total title envy. But their idea is just that, is how do you do things, the Movies for Grownups, where they rent out theaters all over the country, they bring people together to sort of connect over a movie and some popcorn and, you know, and fun. And they felt like the Reach Out and Play concept was right in keeping with what they're trying to do. And so they've come on as a partner. They're, you know, they're talking about it in their newsletters and their magazine, but they're also hosting 50 plus events around the country at their state offices. And we couldn't be more excited that they've taken such a keen interest in it. So we're super excited. And I know that my friends in the state of New York are going to be probably the largest holder of events of anyone. That's our hope anyway.
Well, let me tell you where we're at with that, Ted. So a couple of weeks ago, you were at our Aging Concerns Unitas conference. We had almost 600 people there in person, another 100 plus online, and you launched the Reach Out and Play there. Just from that event alone, we have commitments of over 130 events in New York already. I plan on having an event at my kitchen table with my parents and my kids, where we'll have your games as well as other games. But what I wanted to talk to you about, and I want to thank Alex and Darren. Darren's going to put the toolkit in the chat box. Alex has been putting on the banners how you can register. So as you mentioned, there's a variety of ways to get involved, both formally and informally. Whether it be kitchen table, whether it be organizing one or more events during that, almost 2-week period. Could be at nursing homes, assisted living, housing facilities, congregate meal sites, libraries, really doesn't matter. How do people register or organize an event, if they want to participate formally?
Yeah, so we've got more and more assets being deployed to help people. And so really, there's a few different things. If you're a potential event organizer, you can go and access the toolkit at agelessinnovation.com/reach out and play. And you'll see the entire toolkit. It has everything from what do you need to host an event? What kind of food should you have? What does the facilitator do? Do you need a facilitator? And by the way, this can be played with our games, which we love, or with any games. It's more about getting people together and doing your favorite things. We hope that our games become people's favorite things soon, as I think they're super fun. But it's not necessary. This is really about how do we bring people together. So if you go to that site, you can download the toolkit. If you want to register an event, you can go to aarp.org/agelessplay. And I think that URL is on your screen right now. And if you're an individual who would like to find an event near you, you can also go to that same site, aarp.org/agelessplay, and join an event. And so there'll be events posted on that particular site. That'll be, there'll be a calendar, and there'll be, sort of geographies. And if there's not one near you, host your own at your kitchen table or, in your community. And, we'd be happy to help in any way we can. And I think the response, as I said earlier, we did sort of a little mini version of this last week in Salt Lake City at the US Aging Conference. And I had more fun than I thought I would. And I think most people there had more fun than they thought they would. It was just great. And what was really great was to see that, people would play one game and then they're like, oh, let's go try something else. And so I thought, you'd kind of settle into one game and you'd play it, but people were playing and they would jump. They wanted to try them all, which was really exciting. And, we're here. I think Alex showed that logo, the Reach Out and Play logo, that had a website. So if you want to reach anyone on our team, there's an email address there at the bottom of that particular site, roap@agelessinnovation.com. And if we can be helpful in any way, just send an email there and we will get back to you ASAP.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping, Ted, is that this is the beginning. It's not a once a year between 2 weeks in September. I, like you and my family, grew up on games. I love that they're reimagined. I love that they're intergenerational. And what I'm really excited about is it's a time to turn off your TV, put your cell phone down, and have a conversation, learn more about your family, the friends, and try different things. I'm not surprised at all that people wanted to try each of the games because, again, our generations, this is what we grew up doing, was playing games, and it's fun. It can be cutthroat, it can be competitive.
I see it.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Ted, anything I didn't ask you that you want to let folks know?
I wrote down one note earlier that when we were talking about the pets, and you brought up the point, and I just wanted to reemphasize it because I think, one of the, I think, really unexpected benefits, and I think this goes across sort of the things that we do, is that we're 100% focused on older adults and their families. But what we've noticed is that our products also bring really great benefits to caregivers and loved ones who are caring for older adults, or professional caregivers that are caring for older adults. The stories that we get and the validation of the impact on the caregiver has been equally rewarding for us, because one, you can see it in those videos that you showed, the person who's gifting that pet to the person, whether it's a daughter or it's a professional caregiver. I think there was one of each in those two videos. You see the joy that it brings them to see their loved one so happy, but also, being a caregiver is pretty hands-on, and it can be hands-on 24/7. And if you have something that helps give you some respite or give you some opportunity to be more present or meaningful or take care of things that you need to, that's been a benefit that I don't think we could have seen early on. And so, I think similarly as we've played these games and we've seen it happen, yesterday we did some game testing out at one of our partner sites. And I know that some of the professional caregivers were playing at tables, and it changes the dynamic between what your normal is. Like, if you've got to make sure that people take their pills, that's something you have to do, right? You have to make it. But when you get to see them, being able to turn the card on somebody, in a game of life, and the two of them interacting, all that melts away, right? And then it's just down to the human connection and how important that is. And one of the things that we think about all the time is we just cannot forget about the human connection side of this whole thing. And so we're so honored and privileged to be part of this with you. And you're, I've said it a million times, one of the most innovative leaders that I've met. I've learned a ton from you, and we are just grateful that we can be part of this great program in the state of New York.
We're excited to join with you on this. The caregiver part's really important. I'm going to tell a quick story to really reiterate that. We, NBC affiliate in Plattsburgh, did a story in one of our pilots in Franklin County. The woman was 83 years old. She had lost her husband 20 years earlier. She was a home health aide by trade. Her son lived in Colorado. Her daughter lived in Saratoga. Saratoga wound up being almost 3 hours away. And before she received the pet, she would sit in front of her TV all day long, depressed, lonely, really questioning, why am I here, right? I mean, this is it. Received the pet, and we heard from both of the caregivers, the son and the daughter. They saw an immediately change in her mom's affect. She wasn't sitting in front of the TV anymore. She was walking the dog. She was volunteering. She was making phone calls. She was cooking. She was doing other things, and it relieved their stress. And they were long distance caregivers. And we've heard a lot of those things. People that hadn't talked for 7-10 years, that were interacting with the pet. So, Ted, this partnership has been fantastic. You and your team are amazing. You become such a great friend to me personally, but also to be on this journey to show that really low budget, thoughtful interventions can oftentimes be the highest yield with outcomes. But the philosophy of your company, the team that you've put around you on the human connection, bringing the generations together and reminding people that you don't turn a certain age one day and then just stop living, I think are the greatest messages. So I want to thank Ted Fischer. Hopefully all of his team are listening. I want to thank you guys too for all the work that you do, the great time that I had when I was down there, the apple pie that you graced me with, which I still appreciate and tell the story today. I want to thank Darren and Alex, who produce a fantastic show. We're going to be taking August off for vacation. We'll be back in September. September is Sepsis Awareness Month, and that's a really important issue. While we were doing this program today, 180 people got sepsis, and 40 of them died while we did this program today. So come on in September, learn about the signs and symptoms of sepsis. It's an equal opportunity killer, and it's preventable if it's recognized early. So again, thanks to Ted, his whole team, and certainly to my staff. And you guys have a great summer. We'll see you in September.
Live with Greg is a production of the New York State Office for the Aging Communications Bureau. Please make sure to join us next time.